This is Export Like a Boss, the podcast for those on the front lines of international business and trade. Succeed in business on a global scale. The planet is your market. Here is your host, Alberto Rodriguez Baez.
Welcome to a new episode of Export Like a Boss. This is not just a podcast. This is the first and only Export Cast. First of all, thank you for all the emails and tweets. Please keep them coming. We love your feedback. Also, thanks to everyone who has subscribed on iTunes. If you haven't, please subscribe today. And whether you subscribed from episode 1 or subscribed today, please leave us a comment on iTunes. We would appreciate it tremendously. On to the show. When you think about UPS, what do you think about? Shipping boxes and brown trucks, right? Well, when it's about exporting, UPS does much more than just moving boxes around the world. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing two guests from UPS, Nick Kirby, International Account Executive, and Gino Bonilla, Financial Services Manager. Nick will tell us about an exciting contest UPS is conducting. It is called the UPS Export Challenge, and it's a great opportunity that you definitely don't want to miss. In the second part of the show, Gino will talk about UPS Capital. If you have never heard of UPS Capital, stay tuned. UPS Capital's tools and resources can make a huge difference in your international sales. So, let's get going. First up, Nick Kirby and the UPS Export Challenge, then Gino Bonilla and UPS Capital. Enjoy! Nick, welcome to Export Like a Boss. How are you doing?
Alberto, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Nick, how long have you been working for UPS?
Right now I'm going on my 16th year at UPS. It's been a great journey so far.
Wow. And what's your current position?
I am an international account executive, and I cover Austin, El Paso, and up to Waco in Texas.
Great. Nick, can you tell us a little bit about the UPS Export Challenge?
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about this, Alberto. And UPS is super excited about the Export Challenge. This idea of the Export Challenge, it was really born out of how do we help small businesses and medium-sized businesses with an innovative idea grow to global markets. The Export Challenge is really a way for innovative businesses to bring their ideas and concepts to a group almost in a fast-pitch environment. It's a contest really to spur international growth and enabling businesses to take their product to market outside of the United States.
Is this a new initiative from UPS?
Well, yes, it is. As a matter of fact, it was started in California last year, and they just saw such a tremendous response from innovative companies who wanted to take their products to market outside of the United States and really wanted to use this as a platform for exposure for themselves, but also to hone in on their message and also how are we going to logistically take our products to market. See, the issue is usually with innovative companies, especially those who are just starting out, they're so focused on the innovation of their product. And there are so many great ideas, great innovations out there. But then when it comes to logistics and how are we really going to fill this global demand, that's where it's not always thought through to the end. And so the Export Challenge was born out of this idea of how do we help the innovative small business, medium-sized business, anybody who has a great idea that just wants to export, how do we help them in achieving that goal?
Who can apply to the UPS Export Challenge? Is it only for small businesses? Is it only for businesses in a certain region? Who can apply for this challenge?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Really, the invitation is open to any business who has a product or idea that they are wanting to take to market outside of the United States. And that can be small business. That can be somebody who has just gotten a patent and is ready to go into production and is already filling is seeing demand outside of the United States. That could be somebody who has an Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign, but that can also be some established business who's really never exported before or has a new product that they want to. It's really open to anybody who wants to export outside of the United States.
Where can people apply if they are interested in participating in the UPS Export Challenge?
Businesses who are interested in applying for the Export Challenge can go to www.ups.com/X-Port Challenge 2016.
Nick, what does the application consist of?
It's really just a 4-page document, very simple to follow, basic information, but obviously the application is so important to telling the story. So while it's a simple process, it's also very important to take the time to tell the story of what a business is trying to do. And that could be either mailed by hard copy or emailed an electronic version to their account executive, UPS account executive. And there's also links inside of the website as well.
Nick, what's the deadline to apply?
Alberto, the deadline to apply is September 15th.
Great. And we will include the link to the application for the UPS Export Challenge on our website in the episode's notes. Nick, after the deadline, what happens? What's next for those companies selected for the pitch-off?
Of all the companies who apply, they will go through a review process, and there will be 10 finalists chosen. Those 10 finalists will be invited to come to Dallas on a UPS expense-paid trip to Dallas to do their fast pitch in front of a panel of judges. And this event is just going to be really over the top. I've heard from others inside of UPS that they have a phenomenal program set up for the 10 finalists, including a Dallas Cowboys-Philadelphia Eagles football game.
Wow, that is a great incentive. What are the prizes for the winners?
Top prize is $10,000 in UPS export shipping credit. Second prize is $2,500. And third prize will be $1,000 in UPS export shipping credit.
I heard that there will be great opportunities during the pitch-off to meet other entrepreneurs and people in the international business industry. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. The 10 finalists will all get to network with each other, have dinner together, and then they're going to have their fast pitch at the Star at Frisco, which is the Dallas Cowboys training facility.
That's amazing. What a great opportunity for those interested in starting doing international business, and what a great opportunity to partner with UPS. So let's talk a little bit about those people that are listening to this invitation, but they are on the fence. What will you tell them?
I would say to apply anyway, off the fence, and put in the application. What can it hurt? But also businesses who are focused on exports are really more financially solvent as businesses than those who don't. So give it a shot, put in the application and see what happens.
That's a great advice because, yes, as you mentioned, there are a lot of benefits to exporting, and you never know what can happen after applying and going through the application process and the pitch off. I'm sure there will be a lot of learning opportunities, a lot of relationships to be made. And I also encourage everyone that is listening to this episode to apply if you're interested, or if you know someone that may be interested or may have a new product, let them know about this contest. And again, we will have the link to the application on our website in the episode's notes. And in that link, there is more information about the contest and how to apply. Nick, let's talk a little bit about UPS services for exporters. I think everyone knows that UPS can ship products anywhere in the world. Does UPS offer any services that are specific for exporters other than just shipping boxes?
Boy, I'm really glad that you asked. Yes, absolutely. When I think about the customers who I meet, there's always really the same types of questions and challenges when it comes to bringing their product to market overseas. But what we have are some really unique capabilities. A big area of growth is e-commerce. And a lot of companies are looking to take their products overseas, but through an e-commerce platform. And what we are able to do now with technology is to provide an international checkout for e-commerce that includes duties, taxes, brokerage, and all the things that are traditionally complicated for international buyers. Another is later on this podcast, you're going to be talking about UPS Capital, and they'll be able to provide some insight into unique ways that UPS is helping businesses to export.
The checkout technology that you are mentioning is incredibly useful for businesses of all sizes, because that's one of the challenges when you receive a purchase order on your website from clients abroad. And having this capability right on your website is amazing. And we will talk about UPS Capital in a couple of minutes. So thank you very much for bringing up those two services that UPS provides to exporters. And we also are going to include those links to the UPS e-commerce services and UPS Capital on our website in the episode's notes. All right, so Nick, can you give us an example in which a small business came to you with a challenge regarding exporting? What was the UPS solution used, and what were the results?
Innovation leads to global appetite, but that global appetite demands global readiness. And so when I think to this example of a company who was doing crowdfunding, they were way overfunded from what their goal was. And they promised anyone, anywhere in the entire world, $40 flat rate shipping for their product if they were to endorse them in the crowdfunding website. But they had no idea what it would take to get that done. And so this was an example of somebody who's really innovative with their product, and absolutely there's demand there. But how do we logistically fulfill that? And that's where it's so important to get involved with UPS right from the beginning so we can develop a plan that's scalable from startup to medium and beyond.
Nick, do you have any parting words for our listeners regarding the UPS Export Challenge and the UPS services for exporters?
I would invite any business who has a product that they're ready to export and get moving on the global market to come to the UPS Export Challenge website and submit their application, get the exposure, and also to get a global leader in logistics on their side to help them through that. And for anybody who's listening to this podcast after the Export Challenge is over, you can still contact your UPS rep and find out all the results from the Export Challenge and utilize this experience from the Export Challenge to their own benefit as well. So to contact the UPS rep to get more information on how to go global.
Nick, thank you very much for your time and for giving us the information about the UPS Export Challenge and the other UPS services for exporters. Thank you very much again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Alberto.
Gino, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Alberto. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Gino, can you start by telling us what's your position with UPS Capital?
I am the financial services manager.
Great. Is that for a specific region?
Yes, primarily Central, South, all the border area, West Texas, and parts of Northwest Texas. So literally just over half the state.
Great. And how long have you been working with UPS Capital?
10 years.
All right. Gino, I found out about UPS Capital until about a couple of years ago. How long has UPS Capital been in existence?
We've actually been in existence since 1998. Obviously, the business model and the solutions offerings have evolved over that time, or since that time. But we've been around since 1998.
And in a nutshell, for those who have never heard about UPS Capital, What does UPS Capital do? What services does UPS Capital offer?
So basically, we're the financial services division of UPS, and we help companies manage risk, manage cash flow, and increase sales.
We will talk more in depth about those services in a minute, but let's pretend that I'm a small business owner exporting to a few different countries. How can UPS Capital help me?
We can help protect foreign receivables. We can help protect goods in transit from an exporter perspective. There's a whole slew of services, merchant services might be at play, international credit card fraud protection, potentially financing, sort of a asset-based line. So there's from a financing perspective, insurance perspective, and also protecting those international receivables. Again, in a nutshell, that's primarily the role that we can play.
And what's UPS Capital's website address?
You can find us at upscapital.com.
Gino, what's your most popular tool for exporters?
Currently, I would say trade credit insurance. The role that trade credit insurance plays is so critical because it allows you to vet the credit worthiness of any potential buyer in the industrialized world, so over 220 countries or something. And beyond that, it protects that receivable. So you might be a U.S. domiciled company here. You've got some potential foreign buyers that are, making inquiries, would like to transact to sell, but they want payment terms. Well, we facilitate that safe growth, let's call it, because we vet the credit worthiness of that buyer up front. And once that buyer is approved, that receivable is now protected at 90% or 90 cents on the dollar. So if that customer doesn't pay, if they slow pay, bankruptcy, any type of insolvency or, political instability going on that causes you to take a loss, we make you whole 90 cents on the dollar. So trade credit insurance really facilitates safe international growth.
Wow, that's a great service and a great resource, especially for small and medium-sized businesses that want to export and want to minimize the risk. For example, the foreign receivables insurance, what are the fees associated with that service?
Yeah, typically, the average policy I write in Texas is less than 50 basis points or 0.5% of your sales. And when I say sales, I mean customers that are getting terms. It really is a very critical solution to any exporter, whether you're a mom and pop, middle market, or even, a national company, because it takes the risk out of international trade. The other benefit that is typically very, very conducive to a smaller business, maybe a middle market account, is since we're protecting those foreign receivables, you can go to a bank now and get lending on those foreign receivables, where most traditional banks will not loan on a foreign receivable. So, now that, let's assume for a second we've got somebody on this solution, those receivables are now insured or protected at 90%. It's much more attractive to the bank. The bank is going to be much more willing to loan or play ball on those foreign receivables because they are protected or insured at 90%. So not only are you managing risk or mitigating risk, but you're also increasing your cash flow and facilitating that a financing instrument for those export sales. And trade credit insurance, the average policy that I write in Texas is at 50 basis points or less than 0.5%.
So, and how about the cargo insurance? What are the fees associated with the cargo insurance service?
So cargo insurance, the average policy I write in Texas there is typically in the neighborhood of 20 basis points or 20 cents per 100. It could be less. It could be a little bit more. That's all contingent on. That's tied to the insurable values that you have moving in transit in a given 12-month period. So, for example, someone who has $1 million moving in transit per year is going to be priced very differently than someone who has 20 million. Cargo insurance, that's a solution that protects your goods in transit. So if they're lost, stolen, damaged, again, international exports is a lot more hands touching these packages and shipments, much more conducive to being, again, damage or, something getting lost. We covered the full sales invoice value plus 10%, plus your original freight charges.
These services are invaluable for anyone doing exports because, again, many times there are issues with the cargo or with the payments. And when you have those issues, you want to have that insurance backing you up. And the fees that you mentioned are very, very affordable. And many times for small and medium-sized businesses are a big deal. In this case, they are extremely affordable.
That's a great point. Typically, let's say on the trade credit insurance where we're protecting that foreign receivable, we advocate that you bake in that extra cost at, 50 basis points, 0.5%. Again, it can be a lot less, but just depending on your insurable values. But we advocate that you bake that into your cost of goods, right? And most buyers are going to be willing to pay a little more for you to extend terms, right? Net 30, net 60, whatever the case is, because their local cost of capital may be much higher than the 50 basis points that we're going to charge or that our customer is going to pass on to them. So they're typically more than happy and willing to pay that extra 0.5% because of the local cost of capital.
Let's play both scenarios. Let's say that I'm a small business owner doing exports. I have the cargo insurance and the trade credit insurance through UPS Capital. Let's say that I'm shipping a container to Europe and the ship sinks and the container is lost. How long does it take for UPS Capital to reimburse or pay the value of the cargo?
Several factors that come into play there, but in general, I can tell you we settle something like 95% of our claims within 12 business days. And last year, we approved something like 99.6% of our claims. So we're huge advocates when it comes to paying claims.
Gino, how about the trade credit insurance? If a client of UPS Capital is insured through this instrument and there is an issue with the payment of an invoice by a foreign client, how long does it take for UPS Capital to pay to the American exporter, and what's the mechanism for that payment?
Typically, on a trade credit insurance claim, we allow the policyholder to have full autonomy and decide when you want to file that claim. So, in other words, if this is a customer that you've worked with in the past, maybe they're outside of their net 30-day terms, but you want to give them a little more time, we typically play ball with you on that. Now, there is a deadline on that, but let's assume that, the customer doesn't pay, you don't expect them to pay, you file the claim. Now, you have every right to file the claim one day outside of those terms, right? So if you extended net 30 on the 31st day, you don't have your money, you can file the claim. Now, there's typically a waiting period, let's say of 30 to 60 days, where we attempt to collect on that debt. And if we're unsuccessful, then you're made whole after that 30 to 60 days, typically within a couple of weeks, and you should have a check in your hand for the 90% of that receivable.
Great. And now going into a more specific situation, can you give us an example in which an exporter came to you, to UPS Capital, with a challenge? What were the services they used, and what were the results?
We've actually had recently a rather large company that had a very small percentage of their sales that were international. So less than 5%, let's call it. And, obviously 95% of the world's population is outside the U.S. A very small percentage of U.S. companies actually export, and 70% of the world's buying power is outside of the U.S. So this company really wanted to expand that. However, they weren't comfortable from an underwriting perspective or their internal underwriting practices. They weren't comfortable extending terms. So again, 99.5% or over 99.5% of their sales were domestic only. So we leveraged trade credit insurance, and they're expected to more than triple their international sales the very, very first year. And this is just sort of, going to their current customer base and offering these credit terms.
That's amazing. And we will have on our website in the episode's notes the links to UPS Capital and the specific services that we have been discussing. Gino, what advice would you give to a company that wants to start exporting or is just beginning to export?
I would definitely say, come talk to UPS. obviously talk to the UTSA International Trade Center, definitely talk to UPS Capital, get myself involved. And if nothing else, it's free consulting, right? Let's have a conversation about what your objectives are, what are the risks, what role can we play? This has all been done before. UPS has been in business over 100 years, a lot of expertise, a lot of team members, or a lot of UPS personnel on the team that have a lot of different levels of expertise and can bring some good perspective to what it is you're doing. So I would say definitely get us involved and again, see how we can help.
Gino, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for telling us about UPS Capital. I know that this information is going to be new to many listeners, and I'm sure they will find it very useful, very attractive to increase their international sales, to be protected when they are doing international sales. And I'm sure that they will find this information very, very interesting. Gino, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alberto.
Many thanks to Nick and Gino for taking the time for this interview. We have included links to the UPS Export Challenge and UPS Capital in this episode's notes, which you can find on our website, exportlikeaboss.com. And don't forget to send us an email or tweet to let us know what you thought of this episode. Our email is podcast@exportlikeaboss.com. And our Twitter handle is @exportlikeaboss. Your feedback and suggestions are always appreciated. That's it for today. See you in a couple of weeks, and remember, the planet is your market. Export like a boss.
You've been listening to Export Like a Boss, the podcast for those on the front lines of international business and trade. For past episodes and more information, visit us at exportlikeaboss.com or subscribe on iTunes.